A new report from Chainalysis found that largely DeFi is used by people in higher income countries, and the adoption is much lower than in the wider crypto ecosystem. I thought this was really interesting because I know, Will, you probably did too, Zach, we did too, like got caught up in reporting on DeFi Summer when that happened. And it's sort of been like a rolling narrative. And we talk about, various kind of crypto apps and banks and stuff trying to give people more access to it. But it looks like the adoption is really coming from high-income traders, investors, and things like that, and maybe not some people that are just trying to access a decentralized finance system. So, Will, your initial thoughts here?
Not to be blunt, but water is wet. It's not super surprising to see this. Like, it's the people who have access to the internet in the first place are people who live in higher wealth societies or communities, and that's unfortunate to see that. But that's just realistic. The thing is, where are these applications going is the real question. And there's some real promise for not only Bitcoin adoption over the last 10 years, you see it being used in Nigeria as a method for moving money in and out of the country, but we're slowly seeing some of these other applications being used in other places around the world. If you want to get a loan, you can do that on something like Compound. Of course, the chicken egg problem is there. You have to have Ether first to be able to get that loan. So that problem still needs to be fixed. But I think DeFi is asking the right questions, and nobody's saying that DeFi is already answering problems right now. It's not getting the bank or the unbanked banked yet, but it's moving towards that in the way that the traditional financial system hasn't been able to do. It's been very locked in Western countries. If you're on a sanctions list, you're not touching any U.S. money. I mean, just take a look at what's going on in Afghanistan right now as that country is falling apart in front of our eyes. Dollars are more precious than ever there, but nobody has their hands on them, and they won't be able to get their hands on them for quite a while. So throw it down to Naomi for your thoughts.
Thank you for throwing cold, wet water on my article, Will. Sorry, Naomi, take it away.
I think that when you say it's not getting the unbanked banked, I disagree with that. Obviously, you're inferring you're talking about on a large scale, and you're talking about certain unbanked communities. But within the US, it absolutely is. DeFi is super popular for getting loans. A lot of people, who are taking out mortgages, the whole idea is to avoid capital gains, right? So you can get a loan on one of these systems by putting in a bunch of collateral. You're not actually selling your crypto, so you're not actually, creating a taxable event. So a lot of people are actually using this, and they don't have bank accounts. They're not existing in the traditional financial system. They have crypto, and they're just trying to find ways to live off that. But I agree with the sentiment there that, we're talking about other countries, and we're trying to get people in really corrupt dictatorial regimes onboarded to this because, the money supply in a lot of these countries is just so terrible and corrupted. So I definitely agree that we're not quite there. I'm interested in what Cardano is doing on that front. That kind of is really their purview, where they really focus a lot of their time. They're doing some really interesting stuff on that front. So I'm interested to see how this plays out over the next 5 years. I do definitely think that this is going to be a really emerging sector, getting involved with crypto increasingly so, especially as, people have a lot of resources to throw around, and a lot of people feeling generous. You see a lot of philanthropy in the crypto space, and I think a lot of people are going to be trying to build out infrastructure in a lot of different countries. But we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, just off the back of what you're saying, Naomi, I mean, we spoke earlier this week, I think, about Yield Guild Games raising $5 million from A16Z, and we've seen what they've been able to do with Axie Infinity in countries like the Philippines, getting the unbanked to play this game and cash out in DeFi. A lot of them are making more money than they would make in minimum wage. And so I think as that user experience that we spoke about in the last segment is developed and built out, we are going to see mainstream adoption, and I think we're going to see it very quickly. Almost the way we saw NFTs kind of skyrocket. I think we're going to see the same thing with DeFi as these little things are figured out, because the applications are there and the communities who need them are finding them. But Ben, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I just always appreciate articles like this because I think it really, and also reports like this, I think it puts it all in perspective in some ways. We're very much so steeped in this and talking about it, but there still are huge barriers to entry, Will, like you mentioned, in terms of getting access to these things. Even in the US, right, a broadband internet connection is not a thing in a variety of different regions for the most part. And so there's all this stuff that as the decentralized world of finance gets built out and as crypto gets more adopted, hopefully there's further infrastructure that's built out to support that in a variety of countries and other areas. And so for me, while we talk about DeFi and we're steeped in it in a lot of different ways, it shows just how small of a market share per se in terms of world population it has. And I look forward to that increasing potentially, but it shows that, crypto and stuff does not live in a void, right? It exists like within this larger ecosystem of tech and everything else that people need access to, they need to, have the knowledge about, and the user experience does need to get better in a wide variety of instances.